The US Open is regarded as the toughest major in men's golf. That's because of the way that the courses are set up. And this year's venue, Shinnecock Hills, is exactly what you want to test and eventually crown a much deserving major champion.
We're certainly very excited to be back to Shinnecock Hills. 2004 was the last US Open here, and the opportunity to come back to really one of our iconic US Open venues, one of the founding clubs of the USGA, is quite important and very exciting for us. The golf course is a bit different than what we played in 2004. The club undertook a restoration in 2012 to return the golf course to its roots with the William Flynn design. That resulted in a much wider golf course, a bit longer too. We added some tees, 10 new tees, such that the golf course will be about 7,400 yards, par 70 for the US Open.
That was not adding distance for distance sake. That really was a very thoughtful addition that the architects involved, which was Bill Core and Ben Crenshaw, worked with us in really trying to say, how does the modern game by the elite male players get played, and how can we bring those wonderful William Flynn, who's the architect that kind of rerouted the course in the 1920s, how can we bring those features really back into play? And so essentially we just went hole by hole and looked at it and said, this is how Flynn wanted the hole to play, and then kind of added it up, and it just happened to be 7,400 yards and change. So it should be a marvelous test of golf.
Shinnecock hosting the US Open is seen as somewhat of a homecoming for the championship. After recent first-time venues, Erin Hills and Chambers Bay proved to be controversial and ultimately a toothless test for the world's best players. Shinnecock will be anything but that.
You're going to have to drive it good. I mean, the rough is thick. I mean, as it should be. I mean, I think the last couple of years they've got away from brutal US Open style rough, but it's definitely back this year. It's going to be a beast.
Yeah, it's an incredible challenge. I think just from tee to green, you got to hit it in the fairway, but the challenge of putting it onto the green and putting it on the right surface is what makes this golf course. So you have to be hitting from the fairway first of all, and then you got to hit it on a sheet of paper when you're landing it on the green. You know, honestly, when you're hitting into these greens. So I would just say the greens are extremely tough to putt on and to chip around.
We usually try to get the greens pretty fast, and I think they've got to be very careful this week because they do have a lot of slope. I don't think they can get the greens much faster than they are right now, maybe a little firmer. So I think that there's going to be a give and take on firmness and speed.
We are a linksier kind of a place, very little trees, one water hazard, really no out of bounds to speak of. So all the hazards and all the play are really right in front of you. And I think this part of Long Island, we're unique in that we are a linksy course without any trees.
The two things that really set championship golf apart, beyond just the architecture of the golf course, are the firmness of a golf course, because you have to think about what happens when your ball lands. Where's it going to bounce to? Where's it going to roll to? Instead of just saying, I've got 178 yards, these guys are so good these days that they can hit that. But if they have to think about what's my trajectory and what's going to happen when it lands, and then the other one is the wind. I mean, it's the so-called invisible hazard, but it makes you flight your ball. It makes you think about how much spin you put on a ball, where you want to land it. And I think for those two reasons, going back to Shinnecock Hills, where we really should get firm and fast and windy conditions, we're excited about.
Signature holes are probably the 7th and 11th, the two par 3s, the two short par 3s. 7th hole, the first par 3, is the Redan, and it's unique in that the green slopes away from and to the left of the player, so it really requires a precise shot. The 11th hole, 150 yards, a very short par 3 by today's standards, but a tiny green and really no margin for error. You've just got to hit a wonderful shot to put the ball on the green. And then the hole right behind us, the 14th, fantastic par 4, lengthened to 510 yards now with a new tee. I would say those are the three holes that people most associate Shinnecock with.
The course last held the US Open back in 2004 when Rickie won the tournament at 4 under par. Over the years we've seen a huge variety of scores, including last year's winner Brooks Koepka finishing at 16 under. Don't be surprised though if you see this year's winning total score a lot higher, as the USGA hopes to take the tournament back towards par golf.
Yeah, well, I don't think anybody's played 72 holes in a US Open and has not made a bogey. So, you know you're going to make some mistakes out there. Just try and eliminate the big number. If you can just make bogeys, you never know where you can be when you make some birdies. So just try and eliminate the big number. Take your medicine when you have to.
Bogeys are fine this week. I mean, obviously, you're going to make some birdies, try and make a bunch of pars, but if you're going to hit it in the rough, you're going to have to chip out, you're going to be in bunkers, you're going to hit a good shot that just falls off an edge. Bogey's fine. Try and limit the others is going to be important for people that do well this week.
It's supposed to be hard. You know, there's always that stigma that the US Open, you know, they like even par to win. And for the best players in the world, shooting even par is kind of hard to do. So you've got to have a tough test of golf to get it to that number.